And what I want you to start doing this week, and I don't care if you use somebody else's drawing, I don't care. But if you have your own, that's also fine, but I've got to approve it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anybody?
Okay.
So this, to me, I might have said this before, this is the level of finish we're going to need for, I want to do a character thing, okay? Now, if you want to go, I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways you could go with this. Again, I don't care. I just want a solid drawing because you can't paint an unsolid drawing. If you have something from character design and it has enough information in it, and here's the problem usually, because people come to me with character design stuff. Hang on, it's hot in here. A lot of times they go, oh, I'm going to use this one from character design. And they're not really, they're more sort of contour-y drawings, which isn't going to work. Or they're really awkward pose drawings or whatever. It has to be a balanced, finished drawing. Does that make sense? And, you know, if you start showing it to me this week, I might go, well, if you do this, this, and this, you know, it could work. What I don't want to do here is, if you do a drawing that doesn't have enough information in it, doesn't have enough of a level of finish, it's just going to be a coloring book drawing. It's going to be an outline and then you fill it in with color. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So these have enough information where I could, especially like this one, where I could, you know, I could take that to paint. Okay. Wilder Tulp is a good one to look at. I think last semester, what was it? Elan used a Brian Ajar drawing, which was a really good one. She did a killer job on it. And we're just going to concentrate on the character. That's it. I'm not going to worry about a background and all that kind of stuff. So obviously these would be finished enough. This would just be one color, so we don't really want to do that. That would be finished enough, probably. Not that one. That one for sure. That one. We want enough stuff where we have some interior information. That's a really cool one. Some interior information where we could, you know, have folds and things like that. Some interest in the interior of the drawing. Does that make sense? And again, it can be your own thing. I just want to approve it first because I get a lot of them where they're just not even close to being paintable. Okay? Camille? Where are you?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Okay. So how you guys doing with this acrylic thing?
Struggling.
Who said that? Camille?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look. It's a tricky medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for a long time, I thought it was just me, but I think I told you guys. Now I've heard from so many people that used to use it, now they're digital usually. And they go, man, I hated that medium. But it's like, I like it, actually. Oh, I got to take it out of here. Hang on. Susie's already bored with me. She's reading.
No, I'm getting my notes out.
I don't know. That's not too bad, Camille. What are you having trouble with?
A lot of things.
Okay, go ahead.
Mostly, I think making the surface look nice, because when I put the paint down, especially when I'm going more opaque, like on that orange building and the yellow building, and the street, like it just kind of
Gets a modeled surface.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing I do with this. Okay, like when we go to gouache, gouache is known as going down very flat, very even, and very matte. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So way back when you want to do something look like Illustrator, you do it in gouache, right? Because it would go down flat. You could do it really clean. The thing with acrylic is you can get it to go down really flat, but then my brain goes to like, well, it doesn't really like to do that. And I don't really want it to go down all that flat anyway, right? Because that's not the way the world looks for the most part, right?
Right. That's true.
There's variations in surface. So one of the things that I always do with any medium is I figure, let me turn off the TV. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so you there? So whenever I'm learning medium or something like that, I just learn what it likes to do. And I don't really want to try and strangle it into doing something it doesn't like to do. Does that make sense? And then with acrylic, I gotta go, well, I like the surface to modulate a little bit and shift around a little bit. So I just go, good, this medium likes to do that. And it's part of the reason that I build it up so transparent. Well, I mean, fat overlean's a typical way to work anyway, but it really works to my advantage because I can let things show through the opacity, and I can sort of control what's going on sort of with light and temperature and everything on that surface. Does that make sense? So I think if you're going to go at it and go, I'm going to try and get this to be totally flat and clean with acrylic, I mean, you can once you get used to handling it. I never do. I always think that in a more painterly way. And I think even if I'm doing a rendering or something, which we're kind of doing here, I still want it to be a little bit painterly. And then that's what acrylic likes to do anyway. So I just let it do what it wants to do, basically, right?
Right. I think I didn't word my question correctly, because that's what I want. Like, I want it to be nice, to have nice brush strokes, a nice strokey texture. And I think it's turning out more flat and blocky, and that was my problem.
Okay, did you build it up transparently to opaque?
Yeah.
And is any of the earlier layers kind of showing through, or did you go totally opaque over them?
No, they're showing through. Like in the windows and the reflective building, that's still the washes.
This one is, yeah, you can see that. And then this one's a little more opaque, right?
Yes.
One thing you can do is where's the light coming from? Is it over here coming this way? Because that's where the shadow's getting cast, right? So it's hitting here. Now, I'm gonna trick this a little bit, but let's see. I'm just gonna say that this is casting down on here. So one thing might also be is just breaking up the surface.
Okay.
So the thing with painting, I don't care what medium you're painting with, there has to be enough sort of information going on the surface, and it has to be moving around enough for it to be interesting. Otherwise, it just looks, kind of flat, right? And I'm doing this really half-assed. So let's go here.
One thing while you're doing that, I was looking at a lot of James Gurney's gouache sketches. And would it be possible with acrylic to get that same sort of brushy, quick looking texture?
Yeah.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, it's sort of that's brushwork. That really doesn't matter what medium you use, and that's brushwork.
Yeah.
So, hang on. Let's just go. You're telling me here. Well, I'm going to vary it. Like I'm going to, one of the things with that kind of thing is you're varying your surface or whatever. Does that make sense? So I want to vary. Oops. Let's try this. I don't know why this folder says Crazy Dart 107 class. Why is that named that? Okay, let me find it. Okay, so now let's say that I can get this broken up a little. Because right now, if you look at it, it's basically one color wash for the most part, correct?
Right.
Now, a couple things I'm going to do here. I'm going to go, okay, so this, the reason I put this line in here, it might have been on the building. I don't know. Because I basically looked at my reference and just went, okay, it looks like that. And I just kind of made it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I might go, you know, maybe this is a piece of trim. I don't like that color at all. Hang on. Let's go. Okay, so let's switch brushes for a second. I'm not going to worry too much about the color. Let's see what this is. I'm just going to pick whatever. So let's say that I'm starting to put some trim on this thing. So let's put a nondescript. So a lot of times what's going on here is you got to break up the surface enough for it to be interesting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then let's go here again. I'm going to push this a little, I don't know, maybe a little warmer. Or I might even go, let's go. Now, another thing is I go, this is a, then I'll recarve these shapes, you know, if they're funky. Another thing I would do is like under here, in this kind of environment, there's going to be a lot of bounced, warm, hot light. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So up under this even here, this is another way that I can break up my surfaces and get some interesting temperature shifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go, this might not be the right color. Let's try. Under here, it's too much. And I'm doing this really half-assed, but under this ledge, let me put this on its own layer. Hang on. Under this ledge, like under eaves and things like that, I'm going to bounce some of this warm light. Because if you look under an eave on a hot day, even just a house, especially on houses because they're really low,
Mm-hmm.
you'll instead, and people make this mistake all the time, they're painting a house, there's an eave, they go, oh, it's going away from the light, it's going to be cool. It's like, no, 90% of the time on a bright day, it's not. It bounces up in a thing and that's warm, right?
Right. That makes sense.
And actually, I think there's a Gurney example of that. Let me see if I can find it in a minute. And, you know, I'm doing it very ham-fisted here, but you get the point, right? It's on mine. If you look at mine, hang on. I'm bouncing warm light up into here. See it?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So here's the thing with a painting or drawing or whatever, but probably especially with a painting, it's a holistic thing. So I've got to do those. I got to move the surface temperatures around, but also I got to go in and start putting some things to break it. See how when you break up the shape, it just feels a little better.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
And it's really like, it's important. And it's one of those things that nobody told me. They just go, they tell me all this stuff and they were good. And I'm not saying it wasn't bad advice, but then when you go out and you go, no, you got to shift the surface around a little bit. There's got to be enough information in there that it's interesting. And I've got to break up it's really about breaking up shapes. And what I look at, and when you build it up, usually from transparent to opaque, you end up with a lot of surface shifts and temperature shifts and things like that, just because there's layers under there sort of moving around. And then when I go sort of opaque, I'm letting certain things show through, and it breaks all that up a little bit. I mean, it's almost perceptible, but it breaks it up, right?
Right.
Then I got to make sure that this building has enough interesting information on it to hold the viewer's attention, right?
Right. Now, would you add these with more washes, or would you make those like that bright red that you put underneath the eaves? Would you make those like an actual opaque paint and put that on, or would it be more washes?
This part here?
Right, yes.
The shadow value? The shadow value, I'd probably mix a complement into the same color as the building and knock it and darken it a little bit.
Okay.
Because I want to get a shadow value on there. So whenever, like, I'm cheating it, but a lot of times the ledge will throw this diagonal thing on the wall like that, which is just kind of a nice way to break up the shape. Does that make sense? More like that. And then, like, when I was going through mine, when I was doing it, towards the end, I go, well, this up here is an industrial thing on the roof. And then I go, okay, so it's sitting against all this light value, correct? So then I go, okay, well, now I'm dancing around, because I didn't really do anything with that. I think I tried one or two things with it, but not really. And then I go, well, that's industrial up there. So where's my, and the new Photoshop sucks. Hang on. Oh, it was right there. So then I go, well, I can get a dark value up there and just a pretty neutral color, and I get a nice dark against that bright sky, correct? So that'll help me. I did the same thing up here on this one, right? And then when I really looked at it towards, as I was moving along, what the? I know, and I go, look how dark I can go on the shadow value side, right?
All right, yeah, that's true.
So see how it pops?
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing up here. I think I started over here. And then I knocked that in, and I took a little of that sky value and I carved that edge to make it nice and clean. Right? I love carving edges, right? It's going to be my new t-shirt. I have two t-shirts I want to do. One's going to be that now. The other one's going to be manage your saturation. Yeah?
Yeah, that would work.
Just like real simple, like Helvetica, manage your saturation. Okay, so then it's going to turn on this side. So another thing that's going to help you is when you start punching contrasting into these things, it makes a huge difference. Yes?
Yes, I'll take your word for it.
So let's go. Well, you just saw it with this thing on the rooftop, right?
Yes.
So let's do this. I'm just going to work on the building here for a second. Now I can cool this side down, but I'm going to go, because this is a really saturated red.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just try this. Now, I'd probably want to cool that down, pull it back a little bit. Yeah, it's definitely got to it's got to shift in color a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That does make a huge difference, though.
Yeah, just from a value perspective. So then if we go, right, so now it's starting to read better. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Although,
Yeah.
I, you know, when I'm doing this, I'd probably mix a darker value of it. Might cool it down a little bit, and I'm going to still wash that over. It's not going to be opaque. I'm going to wash it over stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see if I can cool it down a little bit. Or maybe just neutralize it a little bit. Because another thing I can do is I can go, well, there's a bunch of blue sky out there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I did on mine. So I can grab a little of this. And by the way, I'm doing really sort of the same thing traditionally that I am digitally, where I'm kind of throwing things in there and trying them and then going, oh, I got to pull it back a little bit or dab it out or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I get a little bit of that blue reflecting into this glass, you know, they're going to come in different ways. This right here could probably get a little of this green reflecting into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it as strong as that green, but it can get some green in there. You know, there's other things out here that I'm not seeing that might be reflecting in this. I don't want it everywhere. So what you got to do is start looking at the environment and going, what can I pull in here that's going to help me sort of make this more interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See how just adding the reflection makes a huge difference?
It does, yeah.
And then this actually should be, find it, there it is. This should probably be up here. Oops. Should probably be up here. A little bit of warmth right there. And see how it's becoming more interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing over now. You got to be careful. Another thing, like, and I'll show you. Hey, did you guys get the video I put up?
The mixed media one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it? That one's short. It's only like 55 minutes. And I know your head's not in that right now, but if you took a look at it, that's a really fun technique, right?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the first 10 minutes or so.
But yeah, go through it. That's a really fun technique. Okay.
It looked like it.
Yeah. So, and it's a thing that used to be elusive. Okay. Like everybody used to want to know how to do that technique, and everybody kept it secret. You know, just kind of weird. But and then same thing here. Maybe now I go, okay, I've got that light. Your light's actually, I'm cheating the light here a little bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I can get my point across. But so let's pick this. And I'm going to put some of this on here. I'm going to pull it down. If I'm saying that part of the building's darker, then I can darken up some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
how would you make the yellow building and the red building next to this? How would you make those look more three-dimensional as well?
it's going to be contrast. Same thing we just did with this building.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that this building, which you'd be correct, this would come up and it would climb onto this building and darken some of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason you always have all these teachers yell at you about contrast is because once you actually start putting that into practice, it makes a huge difference, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It still blows my mind what a difference it makes. And how something will just come to life as soon as I pop some value in it.
Hey, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I came in late. I was having some internet issues. My name is Allison Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
Well, I always do I do it when I get here, and then I check, I screen cap it again later.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right. You see what I mean, Camille?
Yes. Yes.
Now, another thing, like with this building here, there's a bunch of different ways you can handle this reflective stuff. You can go, is it that warm, smoky smoke glass window? Is it a cooler? Now, also the environment's going to affect it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's going to get a big dose of blue in here just because there's a bunch of blue in the environment.
Right.
But is it a warm, you know what I'm talking about, those warm, smoky glass buildings?
Like with the frosted kind of?
No, that they'll have this,
No?
they're just smoked glass. But they can be warm and they can be warm or they can be cool. Let's do it this way.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so that's annoying. You know what's really cool? Oh, there it goes. Okay. I was just going to bitch about Photoshop, but I was wrong. See, when you're on Paint, when you're on illustration board or whatever, you don't have any of these problems, right?
That's very true, yes.
It's the beauty of it. So let's say it's let's just do gray for now. Then we can figure out if it's whatever it is. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so one of the things you're having trouble with here is that your structural elements are sort of dancing in the same value range as your reflective elements. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that starts to work now?
Yes.
And then I can go, just like I did, I can go, well, there's some stuff out here. You know, this stuff's going to reflect into this glass.
Right.
It still follows the perspective. So then I can get some of this reflecting into here. Because all I really got to do is get enough in here so the viewer goes, you know, knows it's a reflective surface. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to like over describe it. You know, I could even reflect a building in there or whatever. Or I could reflect some of this blue. Maybe a little bit of it up here towards the top, maybe. Or maybe not. You know, simplicity is really what you want here. But I do want a little bit of that blue hitting that reflective glass, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now when I go to my light value, nice and with the brush and scale, let's go on another layer.
Oh yeah, it really shows up a lot more.
And what you're doing is you're tricking the eye. I mean, all this stuff, you're just tricking the eye, obviously. And now we're starting to get a reflective building, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then also, I might go with this same value or the same color and knock down the opacity. Let's see what that looks like. More. That's probably good. And then maybe have this glass reflecting or this structural element reflecting into the glass.
Yeah.
And then, because that's going to drive home the idea of reflectivity again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed this one here. Okay, so then here, and then maybe I take this dark value and go a little darker because the light's coming this way at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it throws a little dark value off this way. And I also use this with my brush and scale to carve my structural elements to make sure they're clean. Okay, so now
Right.
you're starting to get much more structural solidity to it, correct?
Yes.
And then you're telling me this is a very bright environment. Ugh. Well, let's go here. Why would this not go away? This is really weird. Hang on. Photoshop likes to just kind of do its own thing, which is really irritating. Okay. Okay, so here, it's a very lit environment. Oops. Oh. What the hell's going on here? Oh. There it is. That's too greeny. I need more of a... It's still not quite right, but I get a nice bright hit of green on there to really start driving home that this is this will be a little thicker probably. Also, the really interesting thing about that stuff underneath here is it can get really, can do all sorts of things. It can get real ochre-y, it can get real orangey, it can get real purple, right?
Yeah.
So you got to really look at it, because I really look at this. And then I'm going to get a hit of some light on there, probably more than that. Not too much, because I don't want it to become the star, but you're always managing your cast here. Like, you don't want your eye going to something that's not really the coolest thing to go to or whatever. And then I put a little value back here, turn it a little bit, right? So one of the main things we're doing here, see how everything's starting to pop a little more now?
Yes, yes, that looks much better.
I would neutralize that street. It's too purple.
Okay.
So I threw mine down. If you watch the video, I threw mine down because I have a kind of a standard asphalt color, which is burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, right? Because that just gives me bluish gray, or I can knock it a little purple. But then when I realized what I was doing with the lighting, I go, that street's going to be it's going to be way warmer. So, and you really need asphalt, because asphalt's really a really interesting thing. So if you're on a really hot sunny day, it'll look like ochre-y gray or whatever. And then on, I think I told you guys, in certain like sunset light and things like that, it'll go screaming purple, right?
Right, yeah, that's true.
So if you look in the video, I let some of that live through, some of that cool, but I scumbled, where did I put that painting? Oh, here. I scumbled, look how warm that street is now. Because I'm going, I got all this warm light back here. This street's going to get pretty warm, right? Still feels like asphalt. Like, it was really hard for me to figure out those kind of grays when I was a student.
How did you mix that gray, by the way?
Okay, so I think I've said this. There's two grays. So I have a very simple palette, which I've showed you guys, right?
Yes.
One of the things I love about that palette is I can go ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and get a really nice neutrally cool blue really easily, right?
Right.
And then I also, and you could just mix a brilliant orange. You don't have to keep it on your palette. You mix a nice, really hot orange, and then you mix it with cobalt, and you get a really perfect warm gray.
Okay.
Why? Because that orange is a very dominating color. It's really orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it tends to dominate. Now I could neutralize it more with the blue, but between those two things, that's how I got that gray that I just showed you.
Okay.
But the first gray I did was ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So with those two, and I have a very limited palette. My basic palette, I think, is 9 colors maybe, right? And now over the last few years, I've added dioxazine purple and brilliant orange, and that's it. So it's maybe 10 now. I don't know what it is. And I used to just mix all those colors, and at some point I just started going, why are you torturing yourself all the time? Just throw those 2 extra colors on there. You know what I mean? Because you're always looking at it and going, I don't want to have some giant palette all the time. Now in the studio, whatever, and you guys going down the line, you might do that crazy, whatever that color system thing is of like prismatic or whatever. Like I've seen people, and they've got these crazy mathematical palettes where they've got like 42 colors on there. It works for you, whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't do that, but and especially like, okay, my problem with that is, okay, let's say that I'm a disciple of some system like that. Well, what happens when I'm out painting in the desert? Am I going to drag 42 colors with me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that. I want to have just a small palette. The other thing is when you're doing a small palette, your colors instantly harmonize together because you don't have that many colors, right?
Right.
Every color's sort of got the same colors in it, so they all start harmonizing. And then what happens, and you're probably seeing this now, those pools of color that you have sort of pre-mixed, that you've been mixing, all of a sudden you go, oh, I need that weird little shift of color right there. And you go, oh, it's that one right there. And you knock a little ochre into it, nudge it a little bit, and boom, you got the perfect color for that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're all harmonizing. Now this, over here, I'd probably take some more of this maybe. And get this, I want to break these up. I don't want everything to be the same. So maybe I'll go, oops, probably on it. No, I'm not. That's weird. I'm going to get this. Let's see if we can do this. Just trying to find some other colors I can pop in here. So, I could have this reflect in there a little bit. I can pull some of this brighter blue. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to go, well, maybe there's a little bit of a bright thing popping in there. Maybe there's something over here on the other side of the building I'm not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
This would probably reflect a little bit of this in it because it's facing that window.
Right.
And then I'm going to go in with my brush and scale and go, I don't want white. Let's see if, well, we want a warm color. Let's get that. Lighten it up a little bit. Ooh. So I'll put this on its own layer so I can adjust it.
Mm.
And I'm going a little hot, but that's okay. Now it's really starting to feel more structural, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take that same thing and I'm going to cool it down. So let's just put another one here. Because this is still going to be a lighter value over here because it's a lighter color.
Right.
But it's not going to be, it's as intense, obviously. But let's go. It's also going to cool off probably a little bit. Boy, that's a bad perspective job right there. Let's cool it down a little bit. It's not going to be nearly as bright. Okay, see how it's starting to get more interesting looking?
Yes.
Okay, and then what I'm doing now is I'm going, because this is what even if I, normally and you guys did, normally I make a color comp and all that stuff. But even within the color comp, there's got to be improvisation in it. You know what I mean? To me, if I try and hyper copy some color comp, that ain't going to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because then you start chasing the color comp and it's like, good luck. So let's take a little of this maybe. So this is all the decision making I'm doing as I'm working, because I'm going, okay, what does it need? Like maybe it needs a little more bright over here. I'll take a couple of these leaves and have them exit the tree a little bit, because there could be a little pop of warmth here. If that's where the sun is. And I know I'm kind of tricking the light. I get it. Back to this. Then I go, how many of these little leaves do I need off of here? I don't need a lot. Now we got a little bit. And then I go, okay, well, this is a little, in my mind, this little thing is a planner. It's still in the light. So then I go, okay, well, maybe I can come out here and this little thing's catching a little bit of light. That's too much. Let's go back. So maybe this little area is catching a little bit of light. Can knock it down a little bit. In here, I'd probably neutralize this a little bit.
Okay.
Or I might do this. Again, this overhang. So, okay, so now you got this red overhang. Well, it's like, it's not separating, right? And then I go, well, maybe the top of this little thing is also, nobody sees it. So they might, when you don't see something, it tends to go into an industrial idea. Does that make sense?
That's true. Yeah.
Like on a rooftop, they don't give a crap about the rooftop because nobody sees it. And then I'm going to go, well, I'll take this. Maybe this is, it's the entrance, obviously. So maybe I'll just take, I don't know. I don't like that, but I'm just going to leave it. Maybe there's something there that makes it pop a little more because it's the entrance, right?
Okay.
Maybe this can go a little darker. Because I want to separate it, right?
Yeah.
And then I probably go throw a little cast shadow in here. Take that same blue and I'd neutralize it. And now we're getting a little bit of depth going into that space, correct? And I'd probably do the same thing up here. I'd probably go. And you can understand now why I'm such a big stickler, hopefully, for people learning this stuff, because look what I'm doing in the computer. When people are doing this in the computer, they don't know jack crap about what they're doing from a painting perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because look what I'm doing. I'm grabbing grays and stuff and I'm doing multiply layers. It's like, if I'm learning painting digitally and this is what I'm doing, I don't know anything. Does that make sense?
I guess so.
What doesn't make sense?
If someone's painting and they're doing what you're doing right now, you think they don't know anything?
No, I think they understand value and all that. But then when I go, like right now, I'm going to use a gray basically, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work in the real world. I'm doing it to, because you guys are now painting, you kind of understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If I go in and I pick a red in here, I pick a red. I have no idea what that red's made of, correct?
I see what you're saying. Yes. That makes sense.
You got to understand the fundamentals of this, even if you're going into digital. And the thing I don't like about digital is there's all this overlay stuff and tricks and all this kind of stuff, which is all great from a working perspective. But if you don't understand fundamental paint, Like if you don't go, you know, it's why you see all these digital paintings that are super funky looking color wise, because like they're just picking colors. They don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about like, oh, I need to neutralize that color a little bit. How am I going to neutralize? Oh, I add a little purple to it. Oh, I blah, 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 blah. And I start really getting deep into color. And then when I go digital, it's easy. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Like if I was and maybe I don't think I'm weird, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of people like this, because you guys wouldn't be in a class like this if you didn't. If I was a student learning this stuff right now, I'd be like, screw the digital stuff. I'm learning how to paint and draw correctly, and then I'll do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I want to know my stuff. Like I'm just weird about that. I want to know all the fundamentals. I want to know everything from the ground up. That way, whatever comes out technologically or whatever, because there'll be some other revolution at some point, probably in your lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, who knows what that'll be, but you're prepared for it because you're like, I know fundamentally how to do all this stuff. That's just new technology. I just apply it to this, right? Because this doesn't change. The technology changes, but this doesn't change.
Yeah.
Okay, see how the building's getting better?
Yes.
So what it is you're sort of setting things up, and then you've got to start breaking things up, whether that's modulating the colors slightly, contrast, popping shadows into places to give it a little bit of depth, changing a temperature or a value or a color to separate something, on and on and on. Does that make sense? Because I haven't really done a whole lot here. Okay, that's the thing I always want you guys to understand. It's like, really what I'm doing here is just experience. I'm not doing that much, right? And look, now I'm starting to read a lot better.
Yeah.
And then at some point I come in here and I go, this is what I did. And at some point I come in here and I go, okay, now, because you blocked out the sky pretty good.
Thank you.
But then I go, okay, up here, and I do it in the video. All the stuff I'm talking about, if you want to go see it in motion, in real paint, I do all this stuff in the video, okay? Then I go, okay, now I've got this blue up here. And I can shift it and whatever. I go, okay, maybe, because the sky will get deeper as it goes up, right? But the other thing I love about this is then I start going, okay, now I can carve out this shape a little more. I can come in, butt up against these clouds. And then I always do this. Then I come into these clouds and I go, well, maybe I can grab a little bit of more warmth in here. And I start going back and forth and carving these clouds and maybe hitting these a little warmth on one side. Oops. Let's go even brighter. You know, and I might come in here and then go back. I love doing this, by the way. I might come back in here and carve this back out. Maybe soften an edge here and there. I don't want them to look like cotton balls. I want them to have some solidity. And then I took that in mind. I took that same kind of a lighter value mix of that warm color I made for the street.
Oh, okay.
And I, let's see if I can find a warm gray here. What happened? That's weird. Oh, that's why. It's going to be way too dark, but oops. Shit. Okay, now I'm going to go to a warmer gray. Sometimes I'll get this like nice little value And that'll start to give my clouds a little bit of structure.
Mm-hmm.
That make sense?
Yes.
And I want to shape them nice.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little bit of this back here. When I carve out my, and I love going in, I love carving out the, then I recarve these and I go, okay, is this shape cool? I don't know if I need that white there. Maybe I do, I don't know. You know, and then I'll kind of carve back into these tree shapes because the carved shapes just are really nice. Plus I can correct things that I don't like. Maybe I don't want that there, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, I'll carve that out a little.
So the carving, like the redoing, is that how you get those nice brush marks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Man.
Because I can see it happening.
Yeah, and also like my trees, when I looked at them, I go, they're too similar. So then I recarved them.
Okay.
Like I recarved this guy a little bit so he looked. See how cool it looks when you carve a shape out?
Yeah. Yeah. This.
And then another thing I do is I'll take that blue, like in this tree. You know, if a tree, you know, it doesn't happen as much in a palm, but you know, I'll come in here, I'll punch a sky hole in it so you can see through the tree.
Mm.
And it's this back and forth thing. I'm going to break that edge right there a little bit. And then come back. And then I'm going to go, okay, so then it's going to get dirtier and lighter towards the horizon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, what happened now? There it is. Man, I don't like this new palette system they did. Okay. Let's go a little lighter. And I'm going to go, I want to dirty it up. In my case, I decided to go a little lighter. So maybe I'll get a little warmth towards that horizon line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could just be lighter. It doesn't have to be warm. I mean, it's usually going to be warmer. You know, and I can just get a little warmth down there. And then while I'm over here, I go, oh, I could carve this out a little bit again. A little too much, go back. Break up the shape a little bit. Same thing here. And I'm also using that to shape edges. Once I go in, I go, oh, I can carve this shape and get rid of some of this line work.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always trying to get rid of the line work.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the time I'm going in and going, oh, I can recarve this shape a little bit. Get rid of that. That's too much. Get a little more warmth on this. And then, you know, I could also come in and start going, if I want to make the clouds more complex, I could start coming in with like a, maybe like a, let's try that. You know, sometimes I'll start popping some pinks and things into these clouds.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to get a little more complex with them. Or if it's real sunsetty or something like that. So they break up nice when I put some warmth in there. You know, and this color up here would continue. Whatever that is. What happened? It's weird. For some reason, it's not.
I think because you have that little. There you go.
Something was selected, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'll bring some of this up here. I don't want to overdo it. I just want it up towards the top. Oops. To reshape this. See, I like to get that industrial stuff up here because it gives me a dark in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Right up against that.
Yeah.
Right up against that. And then this side will get a little warmer. That's a little too much, but you get the point, that temperature shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look how much different all that looks.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? It's all fairly simple stuff. It's just knowing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what it is. It's not really that it's all that hard. It's just knowing what to do. Okay, does that answer it?
That does. Thank you.
Hang on. I just noticed, Camille. By the way, look at the thumbnail of it.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's popping now, right?
Oh, yes.
And I think that street would go lighter value too.
Okay.
And now I got to look at it real quick. Hang on. I'll just do this real half-ass. So let's see if we can just kind of use this. Even that warming it up a little bit helps, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I got to get this. That's where your brush and scale comes in.
Yes. I've been attempting to use the brush and scale, but I think it's because I'm using a rigger brush that's really long. It still kind of makes the lines slightly wobbly.
I use a rigger. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. I get it.
Yeah.
But you got to get some value in here for that, right?
Yeah.
And then probably whatever, the street stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps. I spattered some stuff right here in this area just to give it some kind of interest, you know, some texture.
Okay.
You know, I just kind of my brush.
Mm-hmm.
But that sidewalk, or that, whatever you call it, that crosswalk
Mm-hmm.
is really, it's laying in perspective on that street. It really gives a sense of what that plane is doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One other thing here is I'd probably define this a little more. Oops. Like this could probably get brighter, not that bright. Still keep your temperature in there. But this sidewalk's going to probably get a little brighter. It's a sidewalk. It's already a really light value.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There. And that'll also sort of define the front of the street a little bit. And then even from this distance, I'm going to cheat it a little bit. Get a really thin brush. grab some dark value that's already on my palette that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and just do a little of that stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But not like I just did it. It's got to be, I mean, from that distance, it's going to be pretty subtle. It might almost just barely be there. And then it also tells the viewer like, oh, this is going this way, and then it dips down this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it means I have to do less work, because it's just. And then another thing I did on mine, you can do it anywhere. I just took some. Again, what am I doing? I'm just trying to break up shapes, and I go, well, maybe this is a, what do you call that? Where you can't park.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I put some red on there or whatever. Why? Just to break up the shapes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the city? What's almost anything you go to? It's a big jumble of shapes, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to capture that idea, but organize it and not paint every single shape I see, because if I do that, it's just going to be a mess. You know what I mean? I'm trying to organize, and I'm also taking advantage of things that you know, right? That the viewer knows. Oh, crack in the sidewalk. Boom, boom. Okay. Oh, curb up down on the street level. Okay. Oh, the plane's doing that because there's a crosswalk. I mean, they're not thinking of that, but that's what's putting it all together in the viewer's head.
Right.
That's how they're seeing it.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, people go, I don't know, they talk about perspective or whatever. And I go, well, if your perspective's off, a lay person's going to know it. They're not going to know that that's what's wrong. They're just going to go, I don't like this. It looks weird, or whatever they're
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they're, you know, all that knowledgeable about perspective. But the thing is the way you navigate the world is through perspective, at least partially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? You are hardwired for perspective. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
All those tools you have in your brain that are happening as you walk down the street could be anything. Smells, sight, you know, movement, things happening over in your peripheral vision. All those things are like how you navigate the world safely, right?
Right.
That's why when you walk down the street and all of a sudden you see shadowy figures at the end of an alley, you go, I'm not going down there.
Mm-hmm.
It is, though. I mean, it's hardwired into you.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're completely right.
And the other thing it's hardwired into, obviously, are people. That's why whenever they keep attempting to do this digital humans in these movies, why you go, whoa, that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why? Because you're super hardwired.
You know what looks right.
Well, you know exactly what looks right. And as soon as they turn around and those eyes look into the camera, you go, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
And they did that in that Star Wars movie. I don't know which one it was. And it's, you know what's weird? I don't understand. They have this deep fake technology. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
So I saw it years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was. And it was when Obama, I think, was still president, and or maybe right after. I don't know, but it was him in a room, and they go, it was on like YouTube or something. It popped up on something, and they go, here's what Obama really thinks. And it was like this super racist video.
No.
But it was Obama in this room, like talking to these people, and he's wearing like a African garb or whatever, and he's saying all this crazy, hateful stuff, right? And I'm looking at it going, this looks totally real. I know this isn't real because that's not who he is, obviously. But this looks super believable, man. Like, it's hard. I'm going, how did they do this? And that was that technology. So they've got it now where they can morph somebody else's face on some other actor or whatever, and it looks totally believable. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
Which is weird to me. It's like, why are you guys not using that technology?
Yeah, like deep fakes I've seen are really good. Like I saw this one on YouTube. It was like a scene from Back to the Future, but they took Marty and Doc and they deep faked Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. So it's like Spider-Man and Iron Man, and it was so well done.
I know.
It was like they were there.
But what I'm not understanding is, like, why don't they just use that technology when they want to do these digital humans?
I don't know.
But yeah, you know, and then like in the Star Wars thing, they did that old guy from the original one. I don't know what his name is, and they had him kind of standing this way and they were shooting him from behind. I'm like, okay, that works. And it was in low light. And I think they might even had him turn his head a little bit, and it was low light and it worked. But for some reason, then somebody, you know, made the decision to go, okay, now let's have him turn around completely and look at the camera. As soon as that happened, you lose it. You know what I mean? And then you've got him standing and interacting with another actor, which really screws it up. You know what I mean? Because you're like, that's clearly a real person. That's clearly not.
Mm-hmm.
Now you gave me contrast to push the idea that that doesn't look believable. That makes sense? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is that? It's contrast. You just gave me contrast to negate your digital human. Okay, hang on. Okay. Susie, how you doing? Where's Susie?
Hello. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. We're good.
Wow, this is good. What do you think?
Where my struggle is, the more I try to obliterate those lines and become more opaque, I find that all I do is add white, add white, add white.
Okay, so here's what you do right now. So now the lesson you've learned is when I create my drawing for this kind of thing, I don't need it to be so dark, right? And then when you're drawing it, if you're gonna transfer it the way we did, then don't even worry about it. Just when you take it into Photoshop and scan it to spit it out to mount it, just reduce the opacity a little bit, and it'll just disappear into the washes. Don't worry about trying to obliterate all the lines. I didn't even do it in mine.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
at some point I'm like, yeah, you know.
What I'm finding is as I do that, which I've been working, as you know, you've been demonstrating, is there some nice nuances that I'm getting with the washy acrylic, and then I'm losing them as I go in to make it more opaque.
Right. That's just part of the process. You've got to land on it kind of how you like to do it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like there's that Mark Gabbana guy. I think I showed you guys his stuff, right?
His name's familiar.
He goes totally clean, right? Probably a little too much for me, but I mean, it's really well done.
Oh, yeah. I remember him now.
Come on.
Yeah, he's the warm, cool guy.
Everybody's the warm, cool guy. Everybody is. Okay, he's also using a lot of airbrush. Okay, so it's a little different. He's using a lot of airbrush, but you know, you can go that way with it. You know, because I remember when I first saw his stuff, I'm like, how in the hell is he getting that clean? And a lot of it's probably airbrush. And now I'm sure most of his work is digital, because there's no way that he can create these things for concept art and all that stuff fast enough. You know what I mean? Like this technique's got to take some time. But like all this crazy gradated stuff like that, it's a combination probably of airbrush, and then he's going in with brush. He's doing a combination, right?
Okay.
And I think I told you guys, I found that video of Hajime Soriyama, his process. Not that different from a lot of things that I do. It was interesting, but his stuff is hyper clean too. And he's always been known as this airbrush guy because he got really popular in like the 80s and 90s. But his process isn't a bunch of airbrush. It's actually a lot of just glazing, just kind of what we're doing, layering, you know, transparent layers. And then, yeah, he goes in with an airbrush to do certain things, but it's this usually the airbrush works good when you use it in combination with real painting and you use it for what it's good for, right? The problem with the airbrush when people were still using it more was that they were trying to do the whole painting with the airbrush. Then it looks like a cheesy, you know, airbrush t-shirt or something. You remember those old airbrush t-shirts? Mm-hmm. Like of hot rods, or there were always a curling wave and then the two, whatever you call it, palm trees. And what's interesting to me about that is like if I show that to a young person, or even a person who's into graffiti art or whatever, and if I show those designs to like people now, they'll go, "Oh, it's so cheesy," blah blah blah. And then I can show you graffiti art now and go, "This looks exactly the same level of cheesiness. How come you think this is okay but not that? You know why? Because you've been told this is okay. You know what I mean? You've been told this is hip. And it's like, it's not hip. It looks cheesy just like this. Like, don't get stuck in your era. Pull yourself back from your era and go, that's cheesy. What Banksy's doing, it's mildly clever. It's not that. It's not. I saw somebody literally compare him to Da Vinci. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You know what I mean? Really? Da Vinci? This is a huge leap. Does that make sense?
Yeah, from compared to the previous week.
No,
yeah.
Period. I mean, this is not easy to do. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Like this up here, this little hot spot on the cloud up here is really nice. And by the way, you can, there's a million ways to handle clouds, right? Sometimes that initial wash you do is good. You know what I mean? That's all up to you, which, and then as you're going, and this takes experience. What we were just doing with Camille's, or when I was doing mine or whatever, as I'm going through, as I'm working through it, I'm going, oh, this needs to get a little more cool. I need to deepen up the sky a little bit. It's all based on what needs to happen for that particular image. Okay. So I don't want anybody to think any of this is formulaic. All this stuff that I'm doing is just fundamental stuff where I'm just looking at it going, needs a little more contrast. I mean, look, what we did with Camille's, 90% of it was contrast, modulating the color a little bit, and contrast. I mean, 90% of it was just value, right?
Right.
And I think the same thing probably here.
Yeah, I was struggling with grays. Like they should be warmer on the left.
I don't know if everybody has the same problem I had. I remember when I was watching Gary do this stuff, and he was hitting, like, I really had a hard time with grays when I was in college. Or do you guys have that problem?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because I would look at the temperatures he would get, and I would just go, I don't know how he's doing that. And it was also like he would do, because we were doing basically the same type of project. And he would do like the sidewalks, and they'd be like just slightly pinkish. And I go, this had a huge influence on me, by the way, especially as a teacher. And I go, Gary, why is that? Why did you make that like pinkish like that? And he'd just go into like, well, the light's over here and it's, and he'd tell me everything. I'm like, God, you're exactly what I need. You know what I mean? But it was really hard for me to go, how do you do that? Like, those are so elusive. Those temperature shifts in the grays and everything are so elusive. To me, they were. Now I don't have any problem with it, but man, I remember the time it was really hard for me to do it. So I always assume, go ahead.
Well, when you were talking about the two different grays, see, I was just using the ultramarine blue and burnt sienna.
That's a good one. You can push that warm.
Yeah, I was pushing it warm and cool. But what I'm thinking that I need to do is mix up a pile of it and then modulate it. Because
sure.
What I end up doing is taking like a tiny little brush and I keep dabbing. I need a little bit of red in there. And then I don't even know what I have. And then I have nothing because it dries so fast. Then I get too much water in the brush.
Sure.
So it's frustrating.
Yeah, one thing I think you're going to see the same, not the same thing, but you're going to see when we get to gouache, the interesting thing about gouache is the tool handling becomes very important, okay? And the consistency becomes really important. And then once you master those two kind of things, you won't have too much, you'll probably have less trouble with gouache than you do this, more than likely. Really? Which is why I like to get through this one sort of first.
Okay.
And also it sort of combines, again, what you learned with watercolor and a little bit of what you learn now with this. And it becomes, I think it becomes probably easier. But my thing with, because everybody's like this, like students tend to go, they like gouache. And part of that is just because they see cool people that they admire or whatever using gouache. And it's like, okay, but that's not the reason to use it. You know what I mean? Like you can get inspired by it and go, God, I love the look of that. And that's great. All that's great. But I think the more mediums you understand, the better you're going to be, you
Sure.
know, and it's not necessarily, that's not the reason why, like I like acrylic for my own reasons or whatever, even though, I mean, you don't even see it that much anymore, but I mean, I just like it.
I think I'm gonna get rid of that box on top of that building because I don't know what to do with it.
This one?
Yeah.
I like that because it gives me this big dark against the light of the sky. That's up to you. Or like you could darken up the sky a little bit and then you have this lighter value and that'll do the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, because I don't know what to do with that right side of it. It looks like it should continue and it's not, but
The way I did it, like we just did on Camille's. Okay, see how when we darken that up, it's just a little nicer?
Okay, I'll darken it.
And it's sort of gradating from up to down.
Yes. Easier said than done.
This does feel like it's reflecting into this. I might just knock it down a little. Just to sort of put it in the same temperature range.
Yeah.
Might just glaze a little color over it. So it's just,
Okay.
and it could go a little lighter. That's fine. This, I might take some of this and put a little more of this reflective because the other side of this building would be the same thing. It'd be reflecting in there. You know, it's not going to be as intense as it is here, whatever. And I don't want to overdo it. That's probably enough for the reflective thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can go totally crazy and reflect everything into it. I think there's a point of no return with that where it starts to be like, it's just too much. And then a real strong, probably not quite that light in value, but.
It's hard for me to use that. Well, I didn't get an architectural ruler, but.
You don't have to have that. You can use anything.
I feel like I can't see what I'm doing. I guess I could be using a clear ruler, but.
It takes practice.
Yeah.
Another thing, that's another thing that I had to go to a lot of people to figure out, that how they were doing straight lines with a brush.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told you guys, I kept getting people who didn't know, and they go, oh, they're using a felt tip pen. I go, no, they're not using a felt tip pen. That used to really irritate me. I go, if you can say I don't know, but stop giving me bad information. You know what I mean? Because I was like a freak about this stuff. I was so hungry for all this stuff. Like every time I saw something, I go, how do they do that? I had to go find out. You know what I mean? And that's why when I got to Art Center, it was like finding the Cave of Wonders, because there was always somebody I could go to and go, how'd they do that? And somebody would tell me, you know?
Good answer.
And they weren't bullshitting me. They were like, it's like this. You know what I mean? Okay, so you see how that building's working now?
Yeah.
These trees are great.
Thank you.
Nice brushwork. The only thing I might do,
Pop a little sky in there.
I don't know. They're pretty nice. I mean, look, when I get a good shape going, I'm not going to screw with it. I mean, maybe a little. I don't know. I mean, that's totally up to you. I don't know if that it needs it. There's something real kind of, there's something very Herb Ryman about it. And that guy was the stuff, man.
What is his name?
Herb Ryman. Here, I'll show you. Hang on. You know, I might just get a couple of little hits of the light hitting it, and that's it.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit of the warmth on this down here.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a little bit. That's probably a little too much, because this tends to be pretty neutral. You know, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean just a hit. Don't screw it up. You know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then this guy can probably come down here.
Don't screw it up like that.
What I mean is don't, you know, sometimes
know
it
the
doesn't even
feeling.
need it. Look, I'm looking for stuff to screw with on here, right? But those are nice shapes. Those are really nice shapes.
But I'm constantly thinking that as I'm painting. Don't screw it up.
Oh, don't worry about that. I don't mean it that way.
I know.
I'm not, you can't grade in a class like this, a mechanics class. You can't grade in a class like this like I would if this was some sort of advanced illustration class and I'm expecting you to already know all this stuff, and then you're going to give me great illustrations. Then I'm going to grade it on all kinds of levels. What I'm grading it on here is that you're understanding the process. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a go ahead.
Take a picture of it. I don't want you to take it away until I take a picture of it. Okay.
Take what away? Well, I'm going to put it on Zoom.
Oh, that's true. I just like taking a
But
screen.
okay, if any, by the way, God damn it, hang on. If you want any demo overlay or whatever I did on here, just tell me and I'll put it up on the Google Drive. You can just have it, and I'll have it all layered.
Okay.
Because I don't want you guys to have to hassle doing that. If you want it, just tell me. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now here you've got a lighter value on the roof, which I mean that could work too, right?
Which one are you talking about?
This one here.
Oh, that? Yeah.
I mean, because you got a nice lot of contrast here. The only thing I'd say is maybe I'd continue this idea. Over here to finish it. And maybe this is a darker value. Maybe I could say it's against it's in a shadow thing or whatever.
Okay.
That's probably too dark, but I'm always trying to go, I mean, it's really, and you work a lot of this out in your comp and all that, but boy, those are bad. Yeah, like that, like something like that, right?
So yeah, so to make that into the roof lie down, I have to gray that too, right beneath it, so things don't feel like they're coming up. As it something moves away from me, should that edge be grayer?
You mean here?
So so it doesn't feel like everything's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing probably would be a one value, whatever that is, and I'm assuming it's away from the light right now. And then I'm going to go, and then, you know, because now I'm trying to get this to contrast what I have, you know. Now, if the light's not going to let me do that, I can't. But I'm trying to go, and then I'd probably just go boom, 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 you know, and just make it this structural thing.
Okay.
Whatever that is. It's industrial. It can be, just as long as I can make it work, you know. I don't want people to really notice it. It just, it completes the edge of the building, and then you could keep this top light value and it'll work, right? Because I mean, you're getting a lot of contrast. The thing that I always have trouble with when I do this demo is that I have to really think about that dark value gray on the roof. It's got to shift in tone to something so it separates from the street down below, right? That's why I added this little element right here, was to separate it from the street. I had a temperature shift, which was working pretty good, but I go, that roof needs to have an ending before it goes to the street, right? And like here, you're going lighter value for this. Okay, that could work. So what that tells me is you're making decisions based on what you're looking at, which is exactly what I want. This is too light, but whatever.
You have to find that again in there.
You know, and there's always that light right there. That's usually a little lighter. That's too much, but whatever. And then up here, this is just what I do. And again, you can do what you want. That's a little dark, but it's fine. I'm going to go in here and maybe see if I can get a warmer. It's probably going to be too much. That's too much, but if I gray that down a little more, you see how I can really use that to shift the temperatures? Because one's facing the warmth and one's going away from it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Now, it's a little too much, but I could actually probably get away with that, but let's do something here. If I go, what I'm trying to push here is the idea of the temperature shift. And I'm hoping you guys are seeing how important that is, correct? So let's just go. just be a value thing. Let's try that. Yeah, if I shift the value a little bit, knock down the saturation a little bit, then it's subtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, and the one thing I've told you guys this before, the thing I'm trying to do is give you guys a heads up, and some of this stuff might not really pop in and click for a while, but you're aware of it, right? And that temperature stuff is so important, okay? When you go and look at a really beautiful painting, you know, representational painting especially, and you see them from, everybody's had this experience. You see some oil painting from across the room and you go, whoa, man, that's amazing. You know, like it's lit really beautifully and all that stuff. And it's contrast. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then you walk up to it, and they don't talk about this enough. Like they breeze past temperature. And then you go up to it, you go, it's all about temperature, man. It's like, yeah, it's all that other stuff. It's a brushwork and the value, but it's all about temperature. Like, to me, that's what makes those paintings that you see that you go, oh my God, that thing just sparkles. You know, when you see a painting that just sparkles, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's temperature. You know, it's temperature with a value. And then, like, I was listening to Nathan Fox talk, and I've always done this, but like I don't hear it talked about that much. And like one thing you can use in your toolbox is you can sort of shift something, because people always go to value. They always go to contrast, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have in contrast? You have line weight is a contrast. Mm-hmm. Size relationships are contrast. Mm-hmm. Colors and things are more saturated than the ones in the background. That's sort of a contrast, you know, saturation versus desaturated. So you have all these contrast things, right? Mm-hmm. Well, one of the other ones you have when you go, I want to turn that corner or shift something, you also have temperature. Mm-hmm. So I can cool that down or warm it up or whatever, blow a little bit of purple into the shadows or something because maybe they're bouncing off something, and I can shift it. Instead of using just value, I can shift it using temperature, right? And it's just something that people don't do that much. And as once you're aware of it and you start using it and failing and hitting it and failing, and all of a sudden you get a handle on it, you go, okay, that knocks your work up professionally a lot, okay? Because look, I mean, I wish I could show you this guy's paintings in person because they're just mind-blowing. God, I hate this slow. I'm going to go get a new router this week. So let me find one here.
Well, okay, another way to vary contrast that I found, because I've played with the trees a little bit more, not the palm trees, but the others, is to change the size of my brush. Instead of having a lot of little, dab, but to have a larger brush.
Oh, absolutely. And you should be starting off with a bigger brush. Okay. Like I have in my, do I have it here? Hang on a sec. Just give me like 2 seconds. Hang on. Mm-hmm. I think I put it in the car. These in here, I mean, those are pretty big brushes. And like if I'm going to block in a tree, you know, if I'm working on location, it's like this big, I'm probably going to use this and block in the tree with that, right?
And it's how big a sheet of paper are you working with?
On location, probably. Well, okay, so I have one that's probably about that big.
Okay.
Not huge, but that's a little bigger.
Uh-huh.
And that one I might go in with this and start knocking in all, you know, the hills and the shape, because I want to get the whole surface covered quickly, right?
Okay.
But a lot of times I'm working on like maybe 8.5, an 8 by 10, 9 by 12, fairly small. And I'll still go in a little bit with these, and just because it covers I want to get the surface covered. And what I'm trying to do there is just sort of separate it from value and temperature. Like the big shapes, I want to immediately get them to separate. And it doesn't matter if it's on location or if it's an illustration or whatever, or painting or whatever. I want to get everything to separate from value and temperature, right? And then so this guy, look at the clarity of his light. Right?
Yeah.
Master of temperature. Master of everything, but really master of temperature. You go see these paintings, are mind-blowing in person, man. But
who is
look
that?
This is Bill Anton.
Okay.
Anton. Look at it, like when you look at this from across the room, man, it looks like it's tight as hell, right? And you go up here and look, there's almost nothing in the face, right? Here you can see he's doing exactly what we're talking about with carving the shape. Look, he carved that cloud out right there. Hit it with a little bit of, look, it's really warm down here, and then it pops over and gets a little cooler up here. Same thing here.
Yeah.
And then look at the blues and the shadow. If I take this, let's do this. What's interesting is to go into these things and go, take your color picker.
Okay.
All right, so if I go here, look how bright that blue is. Can you see the swatch?
Yeah.
When you look at it over here, you would never think it's that saturated or that light, right? Look at this little color. It's a warm gray, right? But it looks like it's more orangey, right? So what is that telling you? Look there's that gray again. So that gray right there, I can mix perfectly with a cobalt and a brilliant orange.
Okay.
Okay. Look at this one. Look how dark that value is and how desaturated it looks. And here's the color.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful to go through and do this. Look at this is totally gray, but it looks really orange. And you're looking at it through a digital lens or whatever, but it still gives you a sense of what's going on here, right? And then we go, okay, so let's go. There's that blue. Let's pick.
Wow. Yeah.
And then let's pick this. So I'm going into the neutrals here, obviously, right?
So to be more efficient with the painting, I should mix up some nice piles of those colors.
Well, yeah, once you hit them. And yeah, like Gurney will go in and he'll pre-mix strings of color. I've never done that. I probably would do it more now, but I've just never done that. I sort of develop them as I'm going, right? And then as I'm, after a while I go, oh, I'm using a lot, just like this. I'm using a lot of this blue, and then this warm neutral. There's just a ton of it everywhere. Okay, so I know how I mix that. I mixed it with this, and this. So after a while, I'm kind of going, like I know what that is, And then after a while, I kind of know the whole color scheme of the whole thing. So there's another thing you can do here that's a helpful thing for this, is you could go, hopefully this will pop up fast enough. Adobe color wheel. Okay, so this is put out by Adobe. It's just a website, right? It's also incorporated into a lot of their software, but I like using it here. So if you look over here, here's all your color relationships, right? Analogous, monochromatic, triadic, complementary, split complementary, so on and so forth, right? But another thing you can do here is you can go, and they always word this really stupid. They redid this. It's another Adobe thing. What's that clicking? They changed it, okay? So they changed the wording. Is that me? See right here where it says extract theme?
Yes.
Okay, which is a dumb way of saying palette generator. And then I can just take this now and look, it generates the palette.
So you dropped a photo into that?
You just go extract theme and then drop your photo into it.
Oh, okay.
But look, it gave me the palette. Now look, it's got these things here. So then if I go, what's going on in that cloud right there? That's what's going on in that cloud right there.
Okay.
What's going on over here?
Sure, everyone else knows about this except for me.
No, a lot of people don't actually.
I love this. Okay.
So you can come in and you can look at that plummy color right there on that horse, right?
Wow, this is great.
I had a girlfriend one time and she was really good with color. She was a designer too. But there was something really interesting about her. She saw color. She could verbalize color. So one time we were redesigning there was a big basement. We were making it into like an entertainment room, whatever. And there was a niche, right? We knocked out this closet and we turned, now it's a niche. And I go, okay, we got this burnt orange thing going on in here. And I go, what do you think should be in the niche? I want to paint a different color. And she goes, it should be purple. And I go, purple? I go, purple's not going to work. And she goes, dusky grape. And I go, oh, that works. That makes sense. And she was really good at that. And there was something about it that, like, when anything like clarifies something in your brain, all of a sudden you start to see it differently. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you start to go, oh, it's not, because I'm telling you, all this stuff with this art, and hopefully you're noticing this, it's not what you think. Does that make sense?
It's not what I think. Well,
it's never, to me, it's never like the process of making art is not anything like I thought it was when I was not knowledgeable of it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And this is one of them to me. Like when you look at this, you go, oh, that horse isn't brown, it's plum, right? That horse isn't orange, it's warm gray. Like, and it's not the color, it's not the way people see color until they look deeply into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or even applying the paint, every paint's different. Like I didn't know all that stuff when I was learning. I just thought, oh, you just go in and, whatever. Or actually what I thought is everything was very, meticulous, and it's not. You know what I mean? Or at least not for me. And there's some people that it is like that, and that's fine. But anyway, you can move it all around here and really look at this brightness of that. And then when you look at this, like that bright blue, this one, even though it's desaturated, this one, look how fresh all the colors are.
Yeah.
Even the grays are fresh, right?
That's the other thing with this painting. Things can get so muddied up, but those look really crisp.
And you got to be, and then look at the clarity of this light. Hang on. I mean, look at the clarity of that light. It feels like morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then look at his brushwork down here. Like, look at it from here, which is how you see it across the room, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you get up here to the foreground, it's an abstraction.
Yeah, it's just suggested.
What makes it work is the context it's in, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So context is also everything, right?
Yeah, your brain fills it in.
Yeah, and you want it to breathe a little bit, you want it to breathe. You don't want to strangle the life out of it. Mm-hmm. And then you got to go in and make paintings where you're going, learning that lesson of fresh color and bright color, and then mixing the grays, like learning how to, because 90% of what you're mixing are grays, correct? You're not mixing.
You're auto-tuning. There we go. Okay.
Am I good? What about now?
Now you're good. Yeah. 90% of what you're mixing are grays is what I heard. And I heard to let it breathe.
Yeah, let the color breathe. Like, even though you're mixing a gray, that doesn't mean dull, right? Like this gray that we just looked at that he was doing, those warm grays that look like oranges, orangey pops of sunlight, are grays, but they've got color. And Ken Oster said the world is just a series of colored grays, and for the most part, it's true. Like, you show me any scene you can go out and paint where you're just pulling crap out of the tube. That ain't gonna work. We've all seen that when beginning painters and everything's saturated because they have no clue how to approach it. Because color, I mean, all this stuff. Look at what you have to do right now in this concept or in this context. You've got to think about every single thing you've ever talked about in every art class you've ever been in: design, color, simplification, editing, contrast, value, atmosphere, on and on and on, temperature. Everything you're doing now, you've got to put it together in this. Does that make sense? It's a lot of stuff to juggle, you know?
Yeah, it is. Okay, thanks, Mike.
And I'll throw these up, anything I work over. I'll throw them on, I'll leave them later. Look at your thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah.
Where's David at?
Right here.
Okay, right now we've got a sort of same color everywhere, right?
Sure. I think I see what you mean.
Okay, so it's going to be the same thing here. I'd probably like knock this down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then get my brighter value over it. Hang on. By the way, in the that demo I did, the mixed media thing, you'll notice in that one I cover the whole thing with a wash of orange before I start painting. Does that make sense? Uh-oh, I think I'm
kind of frozen, yeah.
That's how I use. Okay, am I still free? Because if I'm freezing.
No, you're good now. You're good.
That's how I usually start my paintings because I like that warmth to pop through. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll show you guys an example of it here. Let me let it load while we're talking. I really like this painter. I think I probably showed her before. It's another person with really great color sense. Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. So in that video, in this one, I didn't want to do it in here because I want you guys to really be able to build up the color through your transparent, through your washes, right? And if I go to an orange undertone, which is how I usually do it, then I got to go a little bit more opaque right from the beginning, okay? But that pop of warmth that comes through, can you see it here? Or here?
Yeah, on the pillars and stuff. Okay, yeah. It's easier on that painting, the second one. Okay,
so it does a couple of things. I love the pop of warmth. She really uses a stylistic thing. I use it probably less as that, but I like the way she uses it. Number one, it's covering the whole surface instantly. So anywhere I don't put, where there's a white of the when you leave a white of a canvas, a lot of times it feels unfinished. But when there's a little warmth popping through there, it sparkles a little bit, and you're knocking down all that white. You're getting rid of all that white, okay? So people use, and you can use different colors. I used to use burnt sienna. If it was the right lighting, I could use a cool, But she does really beautiful, I think, really beautiful versions of it. Like what she does with this kind of stuff. See that really subtle back there?
Yeah.
Okay, so and here she can just let a little bit of it roll through, and around here, some of that you can just let pop through when you need that warmth, right? And in here, look, like where it's popping through and all this cool. It's a really, man, look at that blue right there. Look at the brushwork in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one.
It looks like so I'm looking at because you can see the brush strokes in that last painting.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming she didn't go super thick or opaque with it, right?
She's opaque here and there. Okay, so basically, and it's true with acrylic too. If you're working in a fat over lean manner. So if you look at this, there's always going to be transparent passages and opaque passages. So if you look over here at her light, those are pretty fat brush marks. These are pretty fat brush marks. That little light right there is a fat brush mark. This is like what happens is you go to your lighter values, you're getting fatter and fatter with the paint. Which is the same thing we can do with acrylic, which is what we're doing with acrylic, right? Now, how fat you want to go with that paint towards the end is up to you, right? I like to go really fat. These marks right here, let's see if we can find with fatter brush marks. Like this all up in, there's a really cool one of a dog in here somewhere. Or here. All this in there. See how fat that brush mark is right there?
Yeah.
In here. And then she can let some of this pop through. Like this. See these strokes right here? That one?
Yeah.
Those are probably the gesso. So you gesso the board, then that, if that layer's semi-transparent or a little more transparent, it still has brushwork in it because it's picking up the board. Like I always gesso my boards before I use them, so I get that nice brushwork underneath, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. Because I was wondering how on earth she was getting brushstroke marks in directions where the color wasn't, lining up with the strokes.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So it just gives you a nice texture. This right here is a fat brush mark. So anyway, anything where you're seeing the lighter lights is probably a fat brush mark.
Okay.
Really good painter, man. All this. Look at how fat that brush mark is. And here, so on and so forth. Here, look how fat that is.
Yeah.
So you always want to think about that fat over lean, thick over thin. So what color is this building right here?
Some kind of, I'm trying to remember what I mixed. I think I mixed a yellow.
But are you telling me that's the color? Like it's a flesh tony color?
I suppose so. I mean.
Okay. I mean, it can be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was just kind of mixing colors together, and I kind of like the look of it.
What I'd say now is separate it out a little bit. It's all over the place, right? And then you're going to need, just like, remember how we knocked down this value on these windows on everybody's stuff?
Yeah.
So that, and then this has got to get to be a definite idea. This probably won't work, but when this gets to be a stronger, that's way too purple. But a stronger statement going over the glass, right? All I'm saying is that it's white, and then it's going to turn the corner. It's going to get a little cooler. In theory. Well, I want to use that because I want the front to be warmer and then the other side to be a little cooler. And then that's going to, all the stuff we talked about on the other stuff is going to apply to your stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then this street that's a dark value for that street, but scumble over it and let a little bit of it show through. Or you could even scumble over it and have sometimes on streets they'll have like where the tires have worn. Darker.
Yeah, or sometimes they leave behind those those oil stains.
Yeah, all that stuff, So some of that stuff I'll just scumble and I'll leave some of it and it'll start to suggest all that. I like that you're reflecting this right back into this. I might pop a couple more things in there and then that's it.
Okay.
Because people, sometimes they just get carried away with things like that, like reflections. You're like, okay, now it's all about the reflections. Like, just give me enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Allison. Oh, here we go. Where's Allison?
Hi, I'm right here.
Okay, so we're getting way too saturated here, correct?
Oh, yeah. So sorry, I try to like wash it a bit, and
washing's fine.
I don't think it washed very well.
Actually, I don't mind it washed like that. I actually like it like that. Like, are you talking about all the brush marks and all that?
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Okay, cool.
I mean, personally, I like that. The only problem I have is it's too saturated.
Okay, I'll lighten it up a bit.
And the reason I like that is it's automatically modulating all these shapes and things underneath, and I can start to manage it a little bit further down the line. But I don't want everything perfectly flat and all that when I first do it. I just don't want that, right?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just really it's just inactive. It starts to look. We don't want these things to look like just architectural renderings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Because those things are boring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they serve their purpose, and that's fine. But let's see something here. Okay, and then contrast-wise, see how all our contrast is almost the same?
Yeah.
And then make a definite decision about your buildings, like what color is it? You know, what color is that building? Now,
Okay.
the real area down here is really nondescript. I mean, a lot of the buildings are like tan. You know what I mean? Now that doesn't mean I got to do that. I got to make them look like that or whatever. But they're, you know, it's a weird, you know, it's weird when you go down, you actually analyze this, because I just drove around down there and took a couple pictures. You're like, holy smokes, this place has no personality whatsoever. Everything's like smoke glass and tan, you know, very, I don't know, probably 80s. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then there was there's some old historic buildings in the area that are cool. Like the Riverside, that's in Riverside. The Riverside Courthouse is really interesting. The San Bernardino Courthouse is really interesting. By the way, that's a good place to sketch. You just go into the courtrooms and you can sit there and sketch. Like,
cool.
Like trials going on or whatever. It's really interesting. And it's weird because I thought they were going to throw me out of there, because I just wandered in there one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were going to throw me out, you know, and go, what are you doing or whatever. And then they took a break. I think it was a divorce case, nasty divorce case. And they took a break, and the bailiff comes over to me, and I go, oh, crap. And then the judge comes over, and they go, what are you doing? And I go, I'm doing this. And they go, oh, it's cool, you know. And they were into it. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. So then I felt comfortable being there. Because I thought for some reason they were going to go get out. I don't know why I always think like that. Okay, so this stuff has to start to separate from a value perspective, correct?
Correct.
And start to figure out your color scheme, right?
Right.
And by the way, you could look at some other reference of some other city and go, oh, I kind of like that. I want to make this building that color. I want to make this building that color. You could do that too.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I don't really care what color you make everything. I just don't, what we were just talking about, you've got to manage your saturations and your values on everything, right?
Right.
Because it can't just be out of the tube. The only time I ever use anything kind of out of the tube is I'm like, let's say I'm painting on, you know, or it not necessarily on location, but location's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm painting this like landscape, and then here closer to me, there's some wildflowers. Well, I'll set that whole thing up, and then maybe I'll come in with a little bit of pure, I don't know, cad yellow, and kind of just dab a couple of little dandelions or something in the foreground. But that's it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes if I'm doing a muted red, like this is a red shirt, when it's going into the light, instead of adding white to it, I'll just go with a more pure red, and it'll have the same effect as light hitting it, but I'm not adding white where it starts to turn pink. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I use saturation to pop color or to pop light. If I can, or sometimes it'll work with blue too. If you have a very muted blue or muted red, then you hit it with a more saturated blue, then it can look just like it's coming into the light.
Okay.
You know, because I'm always looking at it and going, because we've all seen this.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, when they're going through their first, you know, painting class, or whatever, everything becomes chalky because they're adding white to everything.
Gotcha.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you always got to look at it and go, can I use temperature or saturation to pull that into the light? Can I add a little yellow into that orange instead of white, which you can, because it pulls into the light? Can I add this into it instead of white? Because if you add white to everything everywhere, it just starts to get super chalky, which is a really ugly look.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be real careful a little bit with gouache when we get to gouache, because gouache has literally chalk in it, right?
Right.
I heard that they're not using that anymore. I don't know if that's true or not.
Huh.
Gouache
Thank
has
you.
a very specific look,
Hmm.
and some people love it. I love it too.
Thank you.
Oh, nice. Where's Deborah?
Oh, I'm right here.
What do you think?
It's coming along.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when I'm mixing up paints and then apply them, and then they dry, they're a little bit darker than I expected them to be.
Almost every paint you use will dry darker or lighter, and I think acrylic does dry a little lighter if I remember right. And you're gonna really see some weird stuff like that with gouache, actually.
Oh, okay.
This is looking good though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming along. I've tried acrylics before. I didn't like them, and so I had like an old set, and there was no white, so I bought an open.
Oh yeah,
acrylic,
golden open.
and I liked it so much that I needed a blue ultramarine, and I needed a red, so I bought that also. Now I'm just using that with my old set.
I would really suggest golden open.
So
because it stays workable longer. And the complaint about acrylic was always that it dried so fast that it just got hard edges all the time. It was hard to manage the edges.
That's what was happening.
Yeah, and Golden formulated that brand. I think there was another brand that tried to do that before that, if I remember right, which I didn't like. But the Golden I like a lot, and that's all. I use that a lot now. I use Golden mostly now. Once in a while, I'll use the soft body Liquitex, just because it'll go down a little washier. But I mean, I don't really do that much. And then the Golden, I can build it up to really fat, right?
Yeah, so now I can tell like what was Golden and what was my old acrylic set, because the older acrylics, they just dried instantly practically, and the other the newer acrylics are lasting a while.
The only time I've had Golden not do that is like just recently. Because I've been going out during this heat wave and painting, and even that, I mean, it was so hot outside. It was like 105 outside, and then it just dries it. You know what I mean? But still, so what? You just figure it out. Yeah. And I liked it. Like you got a cooler scheme going on here in the street, or the sidewalk's a little cooler. Like it looks like you're thinking about your temperatures.
I'm trying to, but there's a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to think about.
There is, and it's like anything else. When you're first doing it, you're very much thinking about it. You're very much in that thought process, and then it's and then whatever medium in here that you sort of land on and go, I like this or whatever. Go do another one and another one, because then it's going to become second nature. You're not going to be thinking like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm doing like something right now, and I'm just fooling around with this drawing, but I'm managing the values of it. And I'm thinking about it a lot, because I'm going, it's just not popping yet. Why not? And it's like, I know what it is, the value, but it's like, okay, but how do I manage the value? Because this is a total fantasy made up thing. And it's fun to go in and kind of figure it out and try different things and all that kind of stuff. But, in that case, I am sitting down kind of thinking about it, because I'm going, you got to make this work, because I'm doing a full value drawing that I'm going to actually use this same technique over. And then I'm going to, as long as that drawing is solid with all the values in it, all I got to do is start floating color over it, and it's super fast, right?
Hmm.
So I'd rather just spend the time on the drawing and get all the values right and everything working, because then when I go to paint, it's a pretty breezy process, right?
It should be.
And by the way, the one that I just put up, the mixed media demo, there's a little bit of value in that. You can see how as soon as I wash color over it, it just assumes the value underneath it, and it gets me that much closer to sort of a coherent painting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then at some point, put in your mortar in here in the wall. Like yours feels a little later in the day to me.
Yeah? It was supposed to be brighter, but it kind of got dark on me.
I like it. It kind of feels more like morning. Mine feels more like sunset, and yours feels more like morning to me.
Okay.
Like really early morning. So just go with it.
All right.
I mean, it's cool. Yeah?
I'm liking it, yeah.
Okay, good. And then same things. The reason I'm not saying that much about it, same thing. I probably deepen the windows up here. That same thing I've been saying about everybody's, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you notice, this is the thing that's interesting to me about all these classes is like you go over 3 or 4 and all of a sudden you start realizing it's all the same comments, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because we're not that different. Everybody thinks they're so different. No, they're not. Where's Megan?
I am right here.
Okay, so we got to get more blocked in, right?
That is not mine.
Oh, who did I just say? Oh, I'm sorry. Liliana.
Oh, I'm right here.
Okay. So we got to get it more blocked in, correct?
Yeah, I was too scared to.
Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it,
Okay.
right? I want you to go. Look, you're going to have successes and you're going to have failures, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing with all this stuff, and I tell myself this all the time. With whatever I'm doing, or if I'm learning something new or whatever, I go, I just have to start this stuff. I got to break the ice or I'm never going to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, I go, well, I got to make a bunch of crappiness and then I'll start to get it. You know what I mean? I mean, we all have to usually, I mean, you guys are actually, all the ones I'm looking at today are pretty good. And again, usually you guys are ahead of where I was when I was learning this because I just totally sucked at it. And, you know, I don't know what it was with me, but you got to get more of it blocked in now for me to get be able to make comments on it. Correct?
Yeah.
And then also what you're probably going to need to do, I'm assuming, as you get through this week, you're going to probably need to do a Zoom meeting with me if you're having problems, right?
Yeah, I work a lot. I can do Tuesdays though. Is Tuesday okay?
Yeah, just send me an email and I'm, you know, as long as I'm not in a class, I'm probably available. Yeah? Because I don't want you like being at this point and then we're due Friday and not having any contact with me, right? And I will try and do a meeting this week. This last week got totally screwed up because the school dumped all this crap on me. But this week should be more open, yeah?
Okay.
Okay. I don't want people out of contact with me if they need it. Oh, cool. Where's Megan?
I am right here.
What do you think?
I'm really liking it, how it's turning out so far.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Sorry that it's such a horrible quality picture, though. I just
that's fine.
didn't realize how grainy it looks.
It's cool. Now it's looking like a background painting, right?
Yeah.
So I'd probably soften some of this up in here.
Okay.
Now, again, be careful. Like when I say that, don't go, okay, now I'm going to go soften everything. It's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool that you're pulling this off because most of the time when people go, oh, I want to do this, whatever it is, they don't pull it off usually. You know, and when you're softening up clouds or edges or whatever, don't always think, oh, they got it all. They could be like that. I like that brush marks right there in this one. I think are cool because there's a hard edge here. You know, there's some nice stuff going on. And I might come in here and you got some nice stuff going on in here.
Thank you.
And then here, now look, I know I'm jumping ahead probably because you're working on it, so I get it. Like here, so, and this is probably going to be later. I love this little bit of, is this a church or something here?
I'm thinking it's a factory. I'm not really certain.
That's fine. I like that there's like this warm, peachy light coming through the window. And then at some point, you know, put your mullion system in there.
Okay.
Don't overdo it. And make sure that you put all your light in before you do that. Then you can just work right over the light.
Got it.
Then I'd probably take some of this darker value and put it maybe a little here, just to give that a little bit of form. Here. Here. And then down here, I'd have this break up somehow. Maybe there's just some snow drifts against it.
Okay.
But you want to break this up. Maybe there's also maybe another couple of these. Well, I mean, it would depend if this is the best. Actually, that's fine. Another thing you could do, let me see if, I don't know why on my Adobe I don't have some of my brushes that I should have. I might kind of go, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, see, I don't have my brushes I should have. Oh, that'll work. Okay, so I took and you can just do this, you know, tap it, you know, whenever I'm spattering anything, I get another brush handle and I tap it on that one. And always do it, test it on a piece of paper so it doesn't blob all over the place.
Yeah.
But I might come in here because it's a snowy environment and sort of spatter some of that on there. You see that?
Yeah, I do.
You'll get some of that on the, you know, don't overdo it. Again, don't overdo it. And then I usually come in and shape it a little bit and just get some of that snow on the, whatever you call it.
Okay.
Love this peachy color right there. And then towards the end, I come back in usually with my brush and scale, and I'll just clean up certain places. You don't want to do it everywhere. It's a snowy environment, right?
Yeah.
No, wrong brush. And it's probably a little too clean, but we'll just leave it for now. And I'll just clean up some of these edges.
Okay.
Not everywhere, because you don't, you know, again, the snow's gonna, this is a nice little mark right there. The snow's gonna, you know, everything's not gonna be super clean and all that, but I want it here and there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So do you usually work digital?
Not really. Sometimes I do, but often I work in watercolors.
Oh, okay. And again, up here, whenever you feel like it's time, you're going to get your whatever's going on with the glass up here. I love these peachy colors and these blues and everything in the windows. Clean that up a little. You know, and then I might break some of this up a little bit. Maybe I can see a little bit. I know it's really far away, but I'd probably break that up a little so it felt like there's some bricky texture in there.
Okay.
Not going to overdo it. I might just do that much. Same thing here. This feels like the focal point. So here I might, and those bricks are too big, but I just want some texture on there.
Got it. Okay.
This is great, this down here. And then what was I love this stuff in the road where this, you know, the trails from the wagons or whatever.
Thank you. Does it look right though?
Yeah. What do you mean right? Cool. Your trails?
Yeah, are they to scale and all that? They kind of felt a bit funny.
Put it this way, I knew exactly what they were.
Okay.
And look, there's a certain amount of this where I want this. Okay. There was something I was going to say here. Now I forgot what it was. I mean, it's such a subtle light that there's the, part of me that always wants to hit something, but then I go, I don't really know if it needs anything. Yeah, it doesn't. You know, I go, can I get a really sunsetty light on here? But I don't think it really needs it. I think it's such a subtle thing. I don't really think it, I think you already hit it. Maybe back here, maybe. A little bit. I mean, there's little places where you can pop it. It gets lighter towards the horizon. Sometimes it can give me a nice little pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just warm it up back there, and I can use that to carve some shapes back there. God, there was something I was going to say about it. One thing I might do is I might put a couple of the more of these lamps in here to get a an overlap.
Okay.
You know, because I could see them having that along the river, right?
Yeah. And then like reflecting those into the water and all that.
Yeah,
well.
you could do a little of that. You just real subtle down here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I like the way this railing gets lost over here. Yeah, this is nice.
That was kind of unintentional, but it does actually.
But here's the thing with this. If you're doing it right, 90% of it feels unintentional. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's like intuitive. It's intuitive, you know, and then it just feels like the whole thing is just, I always say it just feels like you're falling down the stairs and you land on your feet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Every painting I do, I'm just falling down the stairs and hopefully I land on my feet. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Damn it. So hang on a sec. Oops. I kind of give that a little more of a simple. Here's the thing with this, like that actually helped quite a bit. Again, make sure, like, look, we're leaving some interesting brush work in here. You already did it. And then I'm just sort of cleaning up a few things, or not even cleaning up, softening some things here and there. Now, what people make the mistake on when I say that is then they go, oh, and they go and they make everything smooth, and then all the clouds and everything look like cotton balls, and it just looks silly, right?
Yeah.
You've got to manage those edges. You're doing it. You want to have those hard and soft edges based on not just, because a lot of people then they go, oh, okay, and then they go soften this edge and harden that edge and do this, and you're like, you're just doing it randomly now. You're not, it's not coherent. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then this is a chess game, okay? Once you're out of moves, you're done. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Like when you sit there and you start looking at it and going, what can I do to it? And you're looking at it for a day going, what can I do to it? And then you just start making, you know, then it's like you probably were done with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this looks really good. And it wasn't an easy one to do. And again, like usually when people do this, they go, I want to do my own thing or whatever. And I go, okay. You know what I mean? But they don't usually pull it off. You know what I mean? And one thing though is that there's a light out here, and I wonder up here, like maybe just in one or two places. Let's see if we can do this. And I'm always still trying to keep some temperature whenever I do a hotter or like a highlight or anything.
Okay.
Like up here, this could probably get some specular highlights because it's right in the sun, right?
Yeah.
And it's high. So I want to get a little more temperature in there.
Okay.
And don't overdo it. Yeah, this is nice right there. See that?
Yeah.
I might even do a little bit as it's going down right here, like this. Some of these buildings catching just a little bit of light. Yeah, I actually do like that. Just on the top, you know.
Okay.
And you know, don't overdo it. People usually overdo specularity, and you don't want to overdo that. I can just get it in a couple of these reflective windows, and it's just telling the viewer there's a. See what I mean?
Yeah.
That there's, you know, there's a sun out here low in the sky. It's hitting the tops of these buildings because they're getting blocked by all these foreground buildings. But the ones that are higher and stuff, they could get a little bit of specularity dancing around. I could get a little bit of temperature up here in the tops of these, and that's it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
You do not want to overdo that. You know, that's what people do is they go specularity crazy all over the place. And it's like, in this environment, the only thing that's going to have specularity snow is, but that's going to be more of a shimmery kind of thing. I wonder if you could even do this. See, like I could do a little bit of that, these little highlights kind of thing.
Okay.
Really subtle. Again, really subtle. I'm just suggesting stuff. I'm not saying you have to do it or anything. You know, can I get a little bit in the cool where it's catching a little bit of warm light, right?
Yeah.
Like right there. You know, and then again, then I'm out. That's too much. I don't like that. And then I'm out, you know, because this is close, so I could probably get a little bit of that shimmer on the whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then again, these where I see this down here where this building ends, well, it's not going to just end. There's going to be some, oops, I got the wrong brush again. It's not going to just end. There's going to be like a snow drift, right? What's going on here? Did I knock down my, oh, I like it when Photoshop just decides that for me. You know, I'm going to put a little bit of that snow drift up to break up the bottoms of the buildings. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I like this mark right here. I probably wouldn't change that. Like part of me goes, I'm going to go in there and clean that up, but I actually like it. Okay. Any questions?
No, none at all.
Good. That's fun. Let's look at it. Thumbnail. Damn it. Hang on.
Okay.
I got two screens, so every time I do something, it'll hide stuff over here, and I'm trying to do something over here, and it's hiding something behind the zoom window over here.
That sounds annoying.
Annoying. Okay, look at that. Yeah? You there?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Where did my, oh, that's stupid right there. Hang on. Okay, so overall, look. This one, not there quite yet. This one. You know, they're reading that big. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That means it's working. Okay? We used to always do that when I was in school. They go shrink it down the size of a postage stamp, see if it works. That means your things are separating. I mean, if I can read that cityscape right there at that scale, it's working. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Then look at this Bill Anton one, man.
Looks really, really nice.
You guys are actually doing better in the acrylic thing than my last class did. And they were good. They were really good. All right. Let me screen grabber. I should be looking at more of these, so I'm hoping everybody's okay. Hang on. Another thing I'm going to start putting together the gouache tutorial this week because I need to have it done this week so you guys can start it, really start it. We'll kick it off Friday, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to go, the only thing you got to do this week in regards to that is just find some character thing you want to do. You know, you could even do it if it was a kind of a straight drawing of a person or something. You could probably even use that. I wouldn't care. It doesn't have to be super stylized, maybe, if that's what you want to do, whatever. I want it to be some sort of person, character, something like that. But I need to see the drawing if you're going to use something, whatever you're going to use. If it's going to be your own drawing or somebody else's, whatever, I just want to see it. I want to see it on Friday so I can just go, yeah, no, don't do that, do this, blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are caricatures fair game?
Is it a full body thing?
Oh, I guess it could be. Well, I'm just kind of throwing an idea out there. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
Look, character stuff kind of is caricature. I don't care, but I want it to be full body.
Okay.
And again, and you guys should start having a sense of this now. It's got to be a very finished, paintable drawing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had people in here a million times, and they go, "Hey, this anime thing." I'm like, "Really? That's like a coloring book drawing. What are we gonna do with that?" You know what I mean? Like, all you're gonna do is just fill it with color. That's not interesting. I need some interesting shapes and folds and enough believability that it makes it paintable. Does that make sense? If you're just washing one color into it, that doesn't work. That's why I'm looking at these more complex ones. I'll put more on the blog, and I'll link it to the blog. I'll put a bunch. Oh shit, that reminds me I gotta do something in my other class. What else? I'll put these ones that we worked on today in here in the Google Drive, and I'll leave them layered. So if you want them, download them, because I'll take them back off in a couple of days because they'll be, or a day or two, because they're probably gonna be big. I will probably do a meeting this week, probably Wednesday. I think it is going to be Wednesday. I think I'm just going to schedule it. That way I can't get out of it. And if you need to pop in there, pop in there. If you need to talk to me one-on-one in a Zoom meeting, then let me know. I don't want anybody, you guys, as we're going to the finish line, I want to make sure that you're having enough contact. Does that make sense? And we'll put this, hang on. Hang on a sec. I'm not. Yes, I am using the right one. Hang on a sec. Okay. That's irritating. Let me try this one more time. That's weird. My Google Chrome is not letting me into, whatever. Hang on, we can do it now. We'll do it here. So here, it's the project, file uploads. It'll be due Friday, the 6th at 8:30. a.m. That makes sense?
Yes.
So that's up. I'll put these up. I'll put the video up from today.
Are you saying that our acrylic painting is going to be due next week? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
This project is due. Right? Tape off, clean, give me a decent shot of it. And we're going to go on Friday, yeah?
Sounds good.
Susie?
Oh, we have to take the tape off.
Uh-oh.
I don't like committing to
Dun,
that.
dun, dun.
Well, the other thing you could do is just take it off digitally. I don't care.
Okay.
'Cause I just want to see it clean.
Got it.
And then if you noticed on mine, my paint crept under the tape a little bit, so I just taped the other way off, and then I just went over it with gesso. You can do that digitally. I don't care about that. Don't get all crazy with it. I put everything in there. Like if something goes wrong, like, oh, here's how I fix it. I do that deliberately because obviously I'm teaching it. I'm also going to try and do, because some students from another class asked me to do this, because I need more demos to do. So I'm going to do the wash one this week, which I don't think will be too bad because I'm just going to do a character thing. Except I got to find a character one that I like, because I don't like using other people's stuff. I've only done that once because I just feel like it's like, that's their stuff. I don't care if you guys use it. So anyway, I'll try and get that up this week. And oh, there's another one I'm thinking about doing, and I might be able to get it cranked out before the end of the term, which is a graphite rub out. It's a real painterly looking graphite technique with a rub out. And then I was talking to them about how I can now take that and I can float acrylics or whatever I want over it, or even oil. And they go, oh, you do a demo on it. And I think I could do a demo on that in an hour or two probably. So I'm going to try and crank that out. It's just another technique, but it's another sort of mixed media kind of idea. Because once we get through gouache, then whatever time we have left, then it becomes about what we can do with these mediums in different ways. Does that make sense? Because then you've got a good, hopefully a decent handle on watercolor, gouache, and acrylic, and then that acrylic mixed media thing I put up, which is, there's a lot of ways to go with that. I just did it mostly with pencil, I think. But then there's all these other techniques you can do with all this kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Question about the gouache, and I might have missed this. So what paper is that on? How is that?
You can use this watercolor paper.
Okay, so if we have an existing drawing, though, that we don't want to paint over that drawing, but we'd like to use, can we do a wet mount like this for gouache?
I'd probably just transfer it. I'd probably just light table it.
Okay.
I'd probably just light table it.
Onto watercolor paper onto cold press or hot press?
You can use cold press, you can use hot press. It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
You'll see that like hot press, the washes lay down a little differently. But if you're going over to opaquely, it probably doesn't matter as much. Like when I go on, lately, I'm really into when I go on location painting. And some of this is driven, I probably talked about this, but some of this is driven just by time. Okay. So I don't have any time. So I'm going, well, I want to go paint. So I've got watercolor, hot press watercolor block. I've got a bigger one. Then I've got a smaller one about that big. It's probably 9 by 12 or something. I just can take that off, throw it on my little tray easel, and start having at it with watercolor or acrylic, and I can paint opaquely, and I can do a lot of things that I like about oil without having the big oil setup, the oil breakdown, the oil this. You know, that's a big sort of setup. And with my time constraints right now, I can get my fix with acrylic. Does that make sense? So in that case, I use hot press because I'm not building up the washes as much as I would with like watercolor. Eventually, I'm going to go opaque over it and stuff like that. So it doesn't really matter, and it's just a very convenient format for me because it's, you know, it's a block. So once it dries on there, it's probably going to, it's almost like stretching the paper. It sort of is going to dry on there. And when I take it off, it's going to be reasonably straight, right? Because some of those I might go, I might throw this into a group show or something, you know. So, and also you could use illustration board. You could use Bristol board.
Okay.
I mean, you could use a bunch of stuff. You just want it to be a robust paper.
What's the best thing to use that gouache on though, when you're learning?
I'd probably use watercolor paper.
Okay.
I think it's a watercolor.
Okay.
Okay, the only difference between gouache and regular watercolor is transparent and gouache is opaque. But they're both watercolors. That's why they marry each other so well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
If we use watercolor paper, would we like get it all wet and staple it down in the same way?
You'd be better off to do that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that. I mean, if you look, here's the thing. If you don't want your paper to warp, stretch it, right? And I try to do it with like Bristol, and Bristol sort of pulls at it's a little different. It's not quite as robust. It's obviously not as robust a paper as 140-pound watercolor paper, but you can kind of take that down. It's fine. But I'd probably just use watercolor paper. That's what I would use. Yeah.
Could you put a supply list down for all the stuff that we'll need for gouache so we can start getting it?
Yes, that's a great idea.
Okay.
And by the way, I use the same palette for every medium I'm in. Okay.
Okay.
Oil, gouache, watercolor, acrylic, it doesn't matter. It's all the same palette. Okay. And you'll develop your own palette and then stick to it. Because people think that like somehow the colors are different or something in different paints, and they're not. When you go in, it's still cad yellow, it's still cobalt blue, it's still ultramarine blue, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same minerals they use. The only thing that's different is the binder. So in acrylic, it's an acrylic emulsion. With watercolor, it's gum arabic. With gouache, it's I think it's gum arabic. I'm not sure actually what gouache is. That's weird. I hadn't thought about that. You know, and then oil, it's linseed oil, right? Yes?
Right, yes.
And then you'll have gotten through the three big ones. The reason I don't do oil is because then it feels like I'm stepping on painting people or whatever. You know what I mean? But if you haven't taken oil painting or whatever, when you go into it, you're going to see the similarities between it and acrylic and gouache. Yeah? Camille?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you and Elan going this week? Anywhere?
Not this week, I don't think. Maybe next week.
Yeah. This week I have a feeling it's going to be crazy because of this election. I have a feeling it's going to be insane.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I'm terrified of it.
I know.
Try
not to think about it.
I do too, actually. I'm just like, it really doesn't feel good. All right. Any questions?
What size about would you want the gouache character to be?
I mean, you know, yay big. Like it could fit on, let's see.
So not as big as the last two, right?
No. I mean, it could be, it could fit on a, like a letter size piece of paper. I just don't want it like this big, you know?
Okay, got it.
You're probably going to see that this next assignment will be a lot simpler, right?
Yeah.
The main thing with gouache is that it's just got certain, I mean, all paints do. The only thing gouache to me is it's a very handly medium. So it's like, and so is acrylic in its own way. But gouache, again, like it matters how you're holding your brush in relation to the surface. Consistency really matters. And dry time really matters, you know, letting this dry before you try and do this, or, you know, and then what's really beautiful about it is you can go back in a year later and go, I'm going to soften that edge a little bit, you know, and that kind of thing. So you have a lot of editing ability with it. Does that make sense? And you can build it up where it looks like oil. That's why if you look at those old Coke ads that look like oil, like a lot of them, you know, with the girl like drinking the Coke and it's just beautifully painted, a lot of those are gouache and they look like oil because the illustrators could do that really brush, you know, because all these guys were great at brush work, all those illustrators back then. And it gave them a meeting where they could kind of do the oil thing overnight or in one day or whatever they did. Whereas oil was more of a problem. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
how long?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how long about does gouache take to dry?
A few minutes.
Okay.
The difference between it and acrylic is acrylic, it dries really fast. But, and by the way, that depends on the weather and all that, right? If it's really cold, it's going to take a little longer to dry. But I mean, it's a watercolor, so it's roughly the equivalent of watercolor, right?
Okay.
What was I going to say? And it's a pretty straightforward medium. Like with this acrylic stuff, the fun thing about acrylic is you can do all sorts of things with it, like mixed media, and you can with other things too, but there's just something about acrylic. I think it's because it's so bulletproof. And then there's also all these mediums that you can get with acrylic. So next time you're at Blick or Art Supply Warehouse, look at all the acrylic mediums they have. They have all kinds of crazy mediums for it. You know what I mean? And Pearl Paint used to have literally, I don't know if you guys you're probably all too young. Susie might have gone there. Pearl Paint over in by South Coast, what's that called? Orange Coast College?
Oh yeah, no, I never had gone there.
It existed until, I don't know, 10 years ago. I don't know when it went away, but it was a big store, and they had this whole aisle, man, went down the whole store, and it was all acrylic mediums and stuff. Like, that's how many there are. Like, Golden makes a ton of them. Liquitex makes a ton of them. Like this painting I'm going to start, and maybe I'll just film that little part of it. I have some rocks in the foreground, so I might take some modeling paste or even just some gesso and sort of rough up that little area clear, because modeling paste dries clear, or I could even do it with whatever you call it, white gesso, because I don't really need all the information in there, and I could just rough it up. So when I start putting color over it, I can drag my kind of dry brush color over it towards the end and pick up a little light hitting it, and it'll look real rough. It'll pick up the rough surface of it because I'm just scraping over the surface of it. So I can rough up little spots. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? And let me see one more thing, because I was talking to Camille earlier about this, and I want to see if I can find it. See that? Look at. Oh wait, am I sharing my screen? I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
See all that reflected light right there?
Yes.
See it right there? See it right there? See it right there, right? And look how it pops and sparkles against that blue, or that bluish thing, right? That's what I'm talking about. When you can dance that warm into the cool, or vice versa, how it gets a real nice sparkle. It's got a little bit back here. Look, see that?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit back here. It's perfect.
Those blues, I wouldn't even think, they're like a pastel-y blue. I wouldn't even think to use that.
He's pushing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to do. And then here's what's interesting about it. When you push it, it looks more right than if he didn't. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like when you first go out and you start playing air painting, when you first do it, usually either your paintings they're just like kind of lifeless. You know what I mean? Until you realize, like, oh, I've got to push it to make it look more like what it actually looks like. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
And you got to go for it, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
like I'm sure as I'm not going to knock points off or anything for you trying that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, sometimes you got to kind of work it out a little bit. But there's and all I typed in, I think, was James Gurney reflected light. I think is what I typed in.
Okay.
90% of the time when I type in. But that management of, and even here, look, yeah, again, to your point, that really pastel-y blue right there sitting inside of that bricky red color, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's doing two things. He's reflecting this warmth off the ground, and he's this color. I mean, I don't know if it is, but it feels like it's the same color as that. So what are you doing? You're going, well, it's in this blue environment with this blue sky. I can reflect that into like white things. And the other thing is white also. What's white? It's an open receptacle for reflected light, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's an open invitation to do crazy stuff with light. Not even crazy, but yeah, that's the best one. There's let's look at this one. Same thing here, it looks like. So he's got a whole post on this. I should actually put this up. Of course he has a whole post on it, by the way. Look at way up here. Look, see that warm light?
Mm-hmm.
Warm, warm, Look at that one right there. That's the stuff you're looking for, right? It's really cool back in here. He cools everything off. Really cool. Look at that little strip of warm. And it just, if you look at this too, it's really mostly all about that, except where it goes a little green in here. It's this, look how ballsy that purpley blue is in here. And then how warm that, look how he warmed up the flesh tone on this little mark for the face of that person in the, it's also really smart to like silhouette the person with the umbrella.
The umbrella.
Because then what did he do? He made that super, look at warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool. I mean, it's all over the place. The whole color scheme of this thing is basically that orangey warm color and that purpley blue color. And then this accent thing of this greenish cast that this other thing is getting. Yeah? And when you see that stuff, when you're going out and doing it from life, which is really valuable, because you can do these things fairly small and just study what's going on. And then you go, oh, that's cool. Look how it goes greenish in that little inlet. Why does it do that? Then I try and figure out why it did it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But then I also go, now I bet you if I look this thing up, he's really into color gamuts and stuff. He might just be going, oh, I did this color gamut thing. And I went, the accent, I don't know, maybe it's a triadic thing or something. Is this green? You know what I mean?
What's a color gamut?
He does this, I never do it. Gamut. You should look it up. I'll post it. It's really good stuff. I don't really do that kind of stuff, but it's great stuff. So it's he does this thing called gamut masking. Where he will take some range on the color wheel and he'll literally kind of cut a section out and go, that's my palette. Right? He has whole posts on it. You know, and that's
okay. I'll look it up.
And you start getting this kind of thing. These are two different gamut masking ideas, right? It's really good stuff to know. Because you might like, I mean, it's really good stuff to know, period. But it's really good for like illustration or painting or whatever. Because you can start going, I want to get this weird, moody thing. Maybe I'll kind of stay over here in this range. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
I don't know why I thought everybody had read that or whatever. I'll link it on Canvas. Yeah?
Okay.
All right, you guys. Let's finish up. Yeah? Why is Susie being so quiet today?
I'm listening a lot.
Okay. All right, you guys. Everybody's good, correct?
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I'll see you on Friday and probably before Friday. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot, you guys. You're doing a great job. I can tell everybody's working hard, which is nice.